Hello, I'm Bill Butz, President of the Population Reference Bureau in Washington, D.C., and I'm sitting here on the campus of the University of Washington with Professor Charles Hirschman. Charles is Professor of Sociology here at Washington and is a former President of the Population Association of America. Charlie, welcome. It's good to talk to you.
Thank you. It's good to talk with you, Bill.
Much of Charlie's career has been concerned with immigration in the U.S. and elsewhere. But for most Americans, immigration is a topic that comes and goes, it's of interest, and then people don't think about it anymore. But right now, it's a topic that Americans are speaking about a great deal.
The issue comes up periodically. Every time immigration increases, controversy about immigration increases, and it's exacerbated in times of difficulty when the economy is looking bad, when unemployment rates increase. Immigrants are often thought of as a correlate, something that might have an effect on this as well. And usually because immigrants have relatively little political power, they often make a convenient scapegoat in times of trouble.
A correlated concern that a lot of people have that's cultural or sociological. People observe sometimes that immigrants are living in their own enclave, speaking their own language, not learning English, not becoming Americans in the sense that many of us think of as Americans. Is the assimilation process different or more difficult than it used to be in earlier phases?
Well, here I want to distinguish between sort of short-term and long-term. When immigrants first arrive, just like domestic migrants to a new place arrive, they often look for familiarity. You know, they like to find people whom they knew before, whom they feel comfortable with. The real critical question is what happens to their children. And by and large, their children want to enter the economic mainstream, they want to enter the social mainstream as well, and they tend to move out. So the immigrant neighborhoods for which there are no successors have disappeared. So we don't have too many Italian American neighborhoods because they've all left. There's still Chinatowns, not because the descendants of the original immigrants are still there, but they're replacements who are coming in there. So this is the people who live in the Chinatown in San Francisco are not the descendants of long residents, they're new arrivals.
I see. So we might expect over time that this same pattern will take place of the communities that are now Vietnamese communities in the U.S. or Cambodian communities, that this same kind of process will probably occur.
We actually, in Seattle, we call the area the International District because it used to be where the Chinese Americans lived.
Yes.
Then it used to be the place where the Japanese Americans lived.
Really?
And then the Filipino Americans. Right now, they're primarily Vietnamese and Laotians who live in these neighborhoods.
I think there are communities like that in New York City.
Right. But they are the fact that these are newcomers. But their children, and even the people who receive an education, they move out to suburbia.
Fascinating. Well, give us an idea of the impact of immigrants and immigration as a whole in the U.S. economy. How much of the growth of our population is due to immigration? Is this different from in the past? What kind of an impact overall are they likely to have, perhaps economically, politically, socially?
I think that there is displacement. So when new immigrants do arrive, often they congregate in certain occupations, again, that they're familiar with, or they have friends or family that can help them get jobs. Taxi drivers might be a common example. Another one is the construction industry, cooks in ethnic restaurants and other kinds of things. And there are probably, it's true that people do leave these occupations. However, immigrants not only take jobs from native workers, they also create jobs. Their presence pushes certain people up in the hierarchy. So a former construction worker might become a foreman in the industry. They also spur the demand for other products as well. So they're job generators as well as job takers. We think the overall balance is about equal.
About equal. Okay.
In terms of its things. Now, there's some people who argue that other things are created with immigration, particularly economic demand in society, and a growing population is going to generate more economic demand, which is going to push the economy upward. There's the other thing about the role of immigrants in the creation of American identity. One of the things we think about American identity, it's a dynamic society, one that's open to merit, that creates institutions that are sort of forward-looking.
Yes.
And one of the questions that new arrivals to the society often come is, why is America different from Canada? Why is it different from Europe? Why is it different from Japan and many other societies?
So why is it?
Well, some people argue that the long-term effect of having ambitious immigrants arrive. Immigrants are selective. They're more ambitious both for themselves and their children, and they create a certain kind of dynamism as a result of this. And I actually think that this has helped to infect American institutions.
Fascinating.
This is not only true of the economy, but it's often true of professional sports. We find that
Yes.
many baseball players come from the Dominican Republic,
Or
from
increasingly basketball players
basketball
from
players
Europe
as
or
well.
Africa.
And this is question: would you rather have a team composed of children from your neighborhood, or would you rather have a winning team? And most people say, well, I'd rather have a winning team, even if the leading players are coming from Japan or Cuba or other places.
Right.
And I think this comes to it. I think this is true of universities. This is true of symphony orchestras. This is true of many businesses as well. Again,
fascinating.
Coming back to Seattle, Bill Gates has a shortage of people who are experts in computer science. So he hires them on a worldwide market rather than a domestic market. So I think that they help to create a certain cultural consequence as a result of their ambition and wanting to make it an American society for themselves, but also helps to shape American culture.
Well, Charlie, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and it's always a pleasure talking to a real expert about demographic, sociological, and economic issues that concern us here in the U.S. and around the world. Charlie, you've helped us with this, and I appreciate it very much.
My pleasure.